The lure of the American shores beckons several people from the southern state of Karnataka in India, as it did my family. Students, brides, and software professionals from the family have been migrating from 1973 onwards in search of better career prospects and ostentatious lifestyles.
At that time, India was still very much a socialist country, and opportunities were very few and far between, and things were extremely slow. A lot of bureaucratic hassles to get things done. So, me being a capitalist by nature, I couldn't stand that. So I had to leave.
I just felt that it would have been a good opportunity to learn something that, because the education system in India is good, but it's not as good as the education system.
How's the place going to be? And I was a little nervous. I mean, I was leaving India, so I was a little nervous. And I was excited also about coming to a new place. And I knew I was going to live in downtown, so I was like excited about that.
No, the only biggest confidence my parents had was that my sister was already here. So there was no opposition, and they thought, oh, she always has a backup.
I think it was part of growing up in India in the 70s and 80s. Going to the States was something to look forward to, and it was seen as a sign of success.
The first thing I can think of is definitely the infrastructure, where big roads and lavish freeways and cars everywhere. And one interesting thing which I always remember is I could hardly see people, or probably having come from India, I could hardly see people walking on the road, which was very, very surprising to me.
Thing was, compared to India, America was very quiet. Raghu used to go to work very early in the morning, and I used to be all alone in the house, and I couldn't hear any dogs barking or people talking. So that
I took the Greyhound from Dallas to College Station, where I finally ended up, and that bus journey was an eye-opener. First, because of the people that I encountered. This was not the rich America that you always hear about. It was more the real America.
Having arrived, immigrants go through a tough settling-in process that involves various kinds of adjustments in day-to-day living styles that differ from the home country. While early immigrants from the 70s like Nirmala found it difficult to procure ingredients for Indian cooking, latter-day immigrants, especially women like Deepa, struggle with the restrictions of being on a dependent visa.
Call is $4 per minute.
So on Valentine's Day, they would allow people
free calls to India.
So there would be a long line in front of the
Oh, okay,
so
that's interesting.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
Couple of times.
Because the other problem is back in India, in our
They
homes,
didn't have telephones.
It took me a couple of months to even understand what they mean when they speak, and what the signs on the road means, and what is the life of an American. So it took me a couple of months to understand that.
I think it was a step down actually. You're used to all the comforts at home. You come here and then all of a sudden you're living with a bunch of other people. People from India, but from different parts of India. You don't have your own bed. You don't have your own room. You don't have all of the things that you're used to in India. So you quickly get used to just sleeping on the floor in a sleeping bag. And then you just learn to live a very simple life, and pretty much you learn not to expect anything at all.
I came in on a dependent visa, so it was really tough for me.
to actually, if there are no jobs, even if you do it, it's not just volunteer work. Nobody pays you because you're not on a legal visa to work, and then you need to change your status in order to go to school, and then you can't even get a driver's license because everything is linked to your social security number, which you wouldn't get till you get work permit here.
Something like it's not easy to get away from things like it is in India, so that is what it's a little scary because I am living with that constant fear of what if a police fellow catches me, what if we don't pay our utility bill 1 month, so you'll have a bad credit score, so those kind of things.
This was when I was doing my masters, and me and my roommates were renting an apartment, and the leasing manager, she was like very rude to us, and I mean we had like a terrible experience with her just because we were Indians. If somebody else did that, or I mean they were just let away. And
software wherein it's a different story because in software the number of immigrants are really high compared to other fields, so I think it's a lot more accepted, and people are really nice. They have no qualms about which country you're from.
Here I think it's more professional. People don't take things personally. And in India, it's a very hierarchical society, whereas here, although there is hierarchy, people don't show their rank, and they are very open to new ideas.
Kannadigas doggedly follow their Bangalore way of life in the form of celebrating festivals. Like others, Hemant and Padmini meticulously perform pujas such as Ganesh and Gauri. Pratibha, Krishna, Anu and Shekhar continue to pursue hobbies such as Carnatic music and Bharatnatyam. In the Muddaraj household in California, reciting morning prayers is a daily ritual not to be missed. Visiting elders from back home form the link between the land of their birth and their adopted homeland.
भगवती भारती की वाणी पन्नगवेणी पालय माम्.
ॐ भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो धीमस्य धीमहि धियो यो न प्रचोदयात्.
या विद्या शिवकेशवादिजननीया वै जगन्मोहिनी
Well, obviously there are more Indians here now. So I don't know if they would feel like a fish out of water now, as we did when we came. That was in 73. There were not that many Indians. But then,
Financially, they are definitely better because they come, though they come as students, but they get better jobs.
No, that's not. No,
that's
not
one
it.
of
Well, that's
one
not
which
the,
aspect which is
no,
makes
it's the
life
company
easier.
that they have. They have so many Indians around.
That too.
Like if you go to North Carolina State University, there are so many Indians. It's a small India, little India itself. So that
they can choose their friends.
that makes it easier.
Not many restaurants around, so we had to go look for restaurants. I even remember my friend and I were roommates. We were both bachelors. Every Friday evening, local guys go to the bar and have a drink, have dinner and all that. We would do sometimes with the American folks, but some weeks, some Fridays when we want to eat Indian food, we would drive 20-30 miles and we still can't find the Indian restaurant. And the internet was not there when we were there, and in those days. So what that meant was there was no information available. Even if there was a new restaurant open, it was word of mouth. So we would literally go searching for restaurants. We couldn't find it, so we wouldn't find it, and so we would come back and cook our own food, basically. So there are different challenges for different generations.
Like for example, when I came to Seattle in '88, there were probably 3 stores that sold Indian groceries, and maybe there are like 5 or 6 Indian restaurants, and now there are like 60 or 70 Indian restaurants, and you get a lot more Indian stuff in the Indian store. So from that perspective, if you want to be an Indian in America, it's a little bit easier now.
Many people are very convinced that this is not El Dorado and don't even want to come here for any reason whatsoever. So, I mean, definitely more people, I think, in my batches and all, even in IIT, a lot fewer people came here than even say one batch above me. Jobs are available in India today. Good jobs are available. Pretty much anything you can do in London and New York, you have a corresponding office in Bombay. If there are some companies that are not there yet, they will be there very soon. So, yeah, it's still a good experience to come and work here because it has resume value. HSBC Bank moved its headquarters from London to Hong Kong, so I mean, the world is going east. The world has to go east. That's the only place which is growing.
It is a common practice among immigrants to create ghettos and live contentedly in them. Is it the same with immigrants from Karnataka? Seems not. In fact, they do interact with non-Indians both professionally and socially. Even so, there are lingering differences between the ways in which they relate to Indians on the one hand and non-Indians on the other. Interestingly, the host culture is equally enriched by interactions with Indians.
I mean, through friends, and we have a bunch of friends. You go to parties and you meet other people, and start making conversations. And
colleagues, I forgot to mention.
Yeah, and I think most of them because of Pratima, because
I know, I'm the source, exactly.
I think one thing you have to understand when you're meeting other people is like you need to know I need to know about the sports here. I mean, to strike a conversation, you need to know what's going on around. But with Indians, we don't have to do all that. We kind of start talking about movies and Bollywood and this and that. But
yeah, similar interests, I think,
people here, if you're trying to interact with them, you gotta know about football or basketball or talk about some politics.
I have met a lot of interesting people. I've worked with various different clients, and most of them have been very warm, friendly, trusting, and unlike the popular assumption that a lot of Indians back home feel that Americans are very formal, not as hospitable as we Indians are. It's not like the total opposite that I have found, but they are very welcoming, and a lot of times they have gone out of their way to help me when initially I didn't have a car, and they used to come pick me up, take me to groceries or for entertainment, and yeah.
They are more natural, normal. They are not, at least they don't interfere in a lot of things. They are not curious about a lot of things. So it makes it that much easier. Just have fun, have a good time and come back. It doesn't make it very personal as such, that sometimes we do have to go through with Indian community.
So it doesn't matter to me whether they're Indian or non-Indians. As long as I can relate to them the way I am and I can be myself, That's it.
People from Karnataka are very laid back and they really have no differences, but then they just want to be seen as an intellect, or probably people who have gelled to this culture and they end up not speaking in Kannada even in public places when they know you are Kannadiga.
Very soon the supplementary schools will also have Hindi as an optional language. This has already been implemented in Edison Township. So yes, they are getting used to the Indian way of...
They are very aware of Indian culture, Indian food, Indian festivals. Like Diwali, there is like a school holiday for Diwali, which is like an awesome, very nice thing to have in the US. Diwali being recognized as a holiday by the school district.
Originally through yoga, each of us, we've only met about 9 years ago. So before that, we were kind of on parallel paths. Each of us very tuned into and practicing yoga in our own way. And then we met at a yoga retreat, as a matter of fact, in 2001. So through that, we got into the deeper spiritual dimensions of yoga. So neither of us has ever practiced yoga just for the physical benefits. It's always been a spiritual practice as well.
For the most part, Indian culture has a great emphasis on hospitality and community, and so it's been a delightful invitation into that community and enjoying that hospitality and actually learning ourselves from Indian culture how to increase our welcoming of people into our lives and increasing our ability and our ideas about hospitality.
And this is the only country where one can go bankrupt due to healthcare, due to not having healthcare, because it can completely drain all your resources, as well as you financially you can be a total mess.
Yes, definitely. I don't like the doctor-patient system here. It sucks because you're running at a fever of like 101 and you want to go see a doctor in a few hours. There is no way you can ever get an appointment immediately. So that's one thing I completely hate about this country.
There are pluses and minuses. It is the best healthcare system. There is no question about that. But there has been some problems with access to that healthcare system. And that depends on whether you have insurance or not. So, there has been difficulties, there has been some problems, with the access to healthcare system, but what is available is probably the best.
If US could not poke its nose around other countries' business, that would be great. Just manage its own things, be itself, would be best thing.
The Bangalore immigrants have also adopted some American customs and ways, such as celebrating Thanksgiving, putting up Christmas trees, dressing up for Halloween, sending the kids to piano classes, going to bars on weekends, and even taking the polar bear plunges in Lake Michigan on New Year's Day.
We try to be more open with each other, and we've tried to use like celebrating Christmas and try to get the kids to not feel like an outsider.
Regional associations and cultural groups form a significant part of the life of an immigrant. Padmini and Shrikant express two diverse views on their place in their lives.
It could be Telugu, it could be any language, but there is a lot more Indianness when children go there. They dress up Indian, they do a lot of cultural shows, and they're exposed to Indian food, and they can relate to every possible festival. They probably know a lot more than a kid back home does, just because we talk so much about it there. It's just a general awareness.
Socialize with Indians too much here, for the reason that maybe I've got a little used to the culture here, due to which I no longer feel the same thing what I used to feel with Indians now here. So I am a little hesitant, or probably based on some experiences where they just try to market you with some stuff like Amway, and these kind of people just come around and talk to you, and maybe because of that I'm a little away from them.
One of the major sites of conflict in an immigrant's life is that of raising children. Cultural differences manifest themselves most in this terrain, and while some insist that they are for total assimilation, some seek a balance between the two cultures.
I think if you kind of force them to be too much of an Indian, like one of my friends, he won't let his daughter, shave their legs. But these kids, when they're teenagers, you can't go to school like that. So when something like that happens, they get teased a lot. So I think that's how these things affect the kids.
Starting in middle school to getting into high school, they have this dating thing that all their friends do. They go out. And I had to tell them, no, you're too young for that. So you wait it out, and it's okay for you to have all the friends over as a group. But going one-on-one, I had a hard time dealing with that.
Okay. And did they listen to you?
I think most part they did, but they did what they had to do. So
when they did go to India, they thoroughly enjoyed it. Every minute of it. The food, family, and sleeping in the same room with everybody. And they really had a lot of fun, and there was no problem at all with both of my kids.
The only thing they didn't like when they went to India to visit relatives was this.
The only thing that I worry about is I always tell them, when you go there, just dress up more, cover your dress up more conservatively, because they're not used to the dress sense. Here they just wear a tank top or something and just go out, but there it is, especially in Bangalore and my aunt's place and all, it's a little shocking to them.
I'm not trying to raise an Indian child in America. I want him to be as American as he can. And I have told him very clearly that everybody is different. He is an American child. And I'm 100% okay with that. So that's what I tell him, that you are an American kid and you do what everybody else in this country does, irrespective of where their parents came from.
There is definitely more of a challenge and psychological pressure on kids from different countries, especially kids that thrive in the host culture, that do as well as our kids do in this culture. But I think it comes at a cost, and the cost is often invisible. And I think it becomes imperative for us as parents to be sure that we're not missing that. Because you do hear, and again, each case is separate and individual and unique, but you do hear of our kids getting burnt out, getting into the drug scene, committing suicide. And again, those may be the normal pressures that every adolescent and every young adult go through. But I think this changing identities, flipping identities, constant flipping, especially if there isn't a consonance, there's a dissonance between what the outside world is valuing as important and what your parents value as important at home.
With immigrants from Bangalore dating back to the 1970s, it is natural now to have a second generation out there. Commonly derided as ABCDs, American-born confused desis, they are perceived as confused individuals. Rekha, Vishal and Rajiv vehemently deny this charge, while Neil, Akash and Riya talk about what India means to them.
Actually, it's funny because I think that that's sort of a misnomer for my generation. I think that because Indian kids like myself are growing up in America and we're not on a daily basis exposed to Indian culture and language and food outside of the home, I think our parents really try to retain as much as possible. So I really think that there was there wasn't necessarily a confusion. It was a little bit hard. Some, my parents were strict, and some of the customs and things that were done in high school and middle school were completely different from the way their education was, growing up. But for the most part, there was a nice balance of both, and actually I find that the older I'm, getting, and now that I'm married and out on my own, I really find myself trying to hold on to that, because that uniqueness is something that goes really far.
It just felt natural to be here. And of course, when you have friends, my best friends were all, American kids, and we would do everything. We played Little League, we played, was in the Boy Scouts, the Cub Scouts. So we did all the things that everyone else did, and it just felt natural.
Most teenagers, especially Indian teenagers, they said, well, they are confused. Most teenagers today, they don't really know what to do. They still need their parents to help them around. So personally, what American-born confused Daisy tells to me is pretty much whatever teenagers go through at this stage of life.
Indian is my heritage. It is part of who I am. That's what it means personally to me on the deepest level. On a more universal level, I think when you think of Indian, you think of an old, proud culture, one of the oldest civilizations known.
I enjoy being there because I get to see my relatives.
They're mean over there.
They will?
They're mean.
Who is mean?
Teachers.
Who told you that?
Mommy.
Really?
Yeah.
What do they do?
Mommy said they hate you.
Besides the obvious material benefits of immigration, what else does an immigrant achieve when he or she leaves the more conservative and protected fold of his or her family and community back home in Bangalore? Judging from what Padmini and Shekhar have to say, there sure seems to be great value to immigration.
I love the fact that you just come out as an individual so much more. You're independent, and all your little things that you never thought you had, your stronger points just come out just by living alone. You're by yourself, and you just have to drive, you have to do so much more, you interact more.
Kisan mixed fruit jam a lot, so I decided I wanted it.
You have to miss India. India is such a colorful place. America is bland in every aspect.
Bangalore, that place of longing and belonging, is rapidly changing. How does the Kannadiga diaspora relate to it when they visit home?
A lot more people, a lot more traffic, and the cultural moral values of the society is different. So yeah, definitely I see a lot of changes.
One thing that I noticed is people seem to be quite stressed out. There seems to be a lot more anger, where Bangaloreans were very civil. It was the most civil city in India at one point. Some of that is being lost.
US is home.
Now it is US.
Don't know for sure, but again, that's the conundrum the first generation immigrants face here. They don't know. There's 1 foot there, 1 foot here all the time. That's the biggest challenge.
I think they're both home for me. I could easily go back to India if I wanted to and adapt to the current living conditions in India, or I could stay and spend the rest of my life here.
I thought I used to be certain that I was Indian when I was 20. When I was 30 and I got citizenship in this country, I was certain that I was American. And then when I gave up my Indian passport, I was certain that I was Indian because I was losing something that I found was valuable to me. Following that, with some changes in my personal life, I was certain that I was American when I diversified my food interests. And now, maybe Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I'm certain I'm American. Thursday, Friday, I'm certain that I'm Indian. So there's no real, to be quite honest, I don't know. This is a question that I wrestle with a lot. I think it's really true to say that I'm truly Indian American. I don't feel a sense of partiality or loyalty to one country or the other. I think I'm a product of, I'd like to think I'm a product of the best of both worlds. And so I think I would not have had the values towards family, the values towards life in general if I were not Indian. And I don't think I would have had professional milestones that have been met if I was not exposed to the freedom and the opportunity of my adopted homeland. And I would not have been the accepting, broad-based personality had it not been for a combination of both India and America.